was a kid, I was pretty into Tim Burton films, like The Nightmare Before Christmas and Edward Scissorhands. So when Corpse Bride hit the Blockbuster shelves, I fell in love with it, and it's always stuck out to me as an overlooked classic of the stop-motion animation world. With some of my favorite visuals ever, lovely music, charming main characters, and a runtime that doesn't overstay its welcome, Corpse Bride is a perfect choice for an October movie night with your friends, your family, or your boo. See what I did there? Corpse Bride is a 2005 stop-motion animated musical fantasy. The story is set in an unnamed Victorian town and is based on a 19th century Russian Jewish folktale. We begin on the morning of a wedding rehearsal. Victor Van Dort, the son of newly rich fish merchants, and Victoria Everglot, the abused daughter of impoverished aristocrats, are to be wed in an arranged marriage, with both sets of parents riding on the union to increase either their social status or financial stability. They are drawn to each other upon their first meeting, but Victor's nerves get the best of him after 3 hours of rehearsing vows and he runs off to the woods.
Young man, learn your vows.
He admires Victoria and wants to get his vows right, so he practices them and places the ring on a branch. But no! Wait, that branch is a skeleton hand! Oh no! Who's that? Corpse Bride! It's Emily, lovely undead lady with a passion for music and a fierce loyalty to her new husband. That's right, they're married now, and off they go to the underworld. And I have to say, the underworld is way less of a fiery hellscape and way more of a musical than one might expect. It's time for some sing-song exposition, where we find out Emily was betrayed and murdered on the night of her elopement through an incredible music and dance sequence that dazzles me every time I watch it. In Victor's absence, Victoria's parents decide to marry her off to this conveniently appearing creepy guy, Lord Barkis, who they think is really rich and might help them get out of their financial situation. Victor hears this from his family's newly deceased carriage driver, gets in his feelings about it, and decides to marry Emily, which requires joining her in death. I mean, I can't blame him, she's a sweetie, but bro did not have his head on straight. Actually, he's probably one of the only people that does, cause half these dead bitches have twisted necks and shit. Why do so many of our figures of speech have such morbid true meanings? The underworld starts to prep for their wedding, while back upstairs, Barkis reveals that he's poor and was only trying to marry Victoria for the wealth he expected her family to have. Everything comes to a head as the inhabitants of the underworld and the town converge upon the church for Victor and Emily's wedding, including Victoria watching in shock from the shadows. Emily realizes that she's robbing Victoria of her chance at wedded bliss the same way she was robbed, and reunites the two. But in the same instant, butthead Barkis shows up and tries to kidnap Victoria, and Emily realizes he's her former fiancé and her murderer. Gasp! A fight breaks out in which Victor protects Victoria and Emily protects Victor. Barkis continues to be an arrogant numbskull and drinks the poison that was prepared for the death wedding. Emily is freed by his death and fades into the moonlight, and they all live, or exist in the underworld, happily ever after. Yay! How sweet! And it only took 77 minutes!
Smile, darling.
Well, hello. What a pleasure. Welcome to our home.
Both sets of parents are absolutely intolerable, which seems very intentional and therefore successful. Emily's parents are especially awful. I can't stand those bitches.
And who would have guessed in a million years that our daughter would have face of an altar in disgrace?
Are they seeing the same Victoria that I'm seeing? Victoria is such a sweet girl. She's clearly been abused and neglected by her awful parents and is not used to anyone listening to her or catering to her needs, just using her to serve their own needs. Her parents' marriage is completely loveless, and you can see it manifested in the bitterness of their character designs. However, they managed to produce a beautiful, demure, and sweet young lady who deserves way better than what she gets.
Mother won't let me near the piano. Music is improper for a young lady. Too passionate, she says.
You certainly hooked the winner this time, Victor.
Now all you have to do is reel her in.
I'm already reeling, Mother. I've never even spoken to her.
Well, at least we have that in our favour.
Victor is an adorably soft-spoken young man. I don't blame Victoria at all for being cool with that arranged marriage. He can play the piano, he's got a gentle personality, and an endearing shyness. And the scene where he re-meets Scraps will melt any dog lover's heart. That had me emotional thinking about all my pets that I'd see again in the afterlife.
Scraps?
Victor and Victoria's newborn relationship is very charming and sweet. I love the quaintness of their matching names and the way Victor immediately tries to make her feel normal when she's embarrassed to talk about wanting true love. And despite him just meeting her that day, he feels such guilt about his difficulty with the vows and how it must make her feel. However, we don't actually get to see that much of them together because Emily comes crashing in.
With this ring, I ask you to be mine.
I really don't know how he didn't see that that's a hand. Like, it's branchy and all, but branches aren't hand-shaped. Get it together, Victor. Emily's entrance is scary because she's a corpse and all, but she's gotta be the most beautiful zombie I've ever seen. And she has a very sweet... well, can I say soul? I don't think she has a soul anymore. She's a sweetheart, though. Part of me wants to be surprised that Emily is so easily accepting of Victor's proposal, but once you understand her character, it really makes sense. She's been waiting for years to replace that hole that Barkus left in her heart. Or her eye?
Wedding feast! I'm salivating.
Maggots.
Anyway, it'd be easy to say Victor is selfish for trying to run away back to the land of the living, but you can't really blame him. He's just a living being terrified by his situation, trapped in the underworld and at risk of losing the girl he loves, who he only just got a chance to meet. So I get why he manipulates her into going to the surface, even if it's not cool. Look at how happy they are to see each other again. This one little scene is so sweet.
This morning, I was terrified of marriage. But then, on meeting you, I felt I should be with you always.
But I also get why, from Emily's manic pixie point of view, that was super awful of him and she took them back to the underworld. Honestly, the whole thing is kind of silly when you break it down. Not in a bad way, this is a kid's movie, so I don't think I should go much deeper here.
I thought this was all going so well.
The scene where Victor and Emily play piano together is really sweet, and for a minute I really did believe that he was going to marry Emily, though it invoked a certain sadness for Victoria being abandoned. I could have seen it going either way, considering that he had met them both on the same day.
Pardon my enthusiasm.
I like your enthusiasm.
But I'm glad Emily eventually realizes that she's using Victor as a band-aid for the pain of her eternal loss.
I love you, Victor. But you're not mine.
Either way, Emily definitely deserved better than what she got. The movie was scored by Danny Elfman, known for his band Oingo Boingo, The Simpsons theme, The Nightmare Before Christmas, and a plethora of other amazing scores and soundtracks, including 16 Tim Burton movies. People always talk about the Burton-Carter-Depp trio, but they forget that Elfman is definitely in there with them. I listened to the soundtrack as I wrote the script, and I gotta say, even on its own, it's absolutely beautiful. I would do anything for an extended version of Victor's piano solo. The music for the movie is perfect. The performance numbers all suit the characters super well, and I love the soundtracky, more ambient bits as well. I especially love this guy.
A tragic tale of romance, passion, and a murder most foul.
Basically all stop-motion animation is an incomprehensible feat. But the movement in this movie is absolutely stunning. Same with the character design, costume design, set design. It's all an absolute treat to look at. So many times in this movie, I just stopped to take a look at how everything looked and process the fact that hands moved every single thing you see. It's understandable that it's not a common practice anymore with 3D being advanced as it is, but I think it's a rarity for 3D to ever match up to the way every single second of stop motion astounds and dazzles the senses. You could pause it anywhere and it looks so soft and moody and otherworldly. The lighting is especially magical and is so perfectly executed in every single scene. It's a pleasure to look at, and hopefully you noticed this while you were watching this video. You are watching, right? Stop folding your laundry or whatever. My neck is killing me putting all these clips together. Aggravating my chronic pain, and you're treating this like a podcast? I know people like Corpse Bride if they've seen it, but I don't hear people talking about the movie too much outside of comparing it to The Nightmare Before Christmas or remembering that it exists around Halloween. And sure, it's got a spooky aesthetic, but it shouldn't be limited to one month of the year. It stands on its own. The humor of this movie is quite morbid, which fits in perfectly with the whole accidentally marrying a dead lady thing. I basically never questioned the vibes. I was eating it up as a kid and now.
Coming through! My name is Paul. I am the head waiter.
I mean, the first musical number in the underworld is a jazzy number about how we all die and how okay that is. I really can't think of another kids movie with this attitude.
Maybe he's right. Maybe we are too different.
Maybe he should have his head examined. Oh, I could do it.
I saw her. A corpse. Standing right here with Victor. Victor was in your room?
It's hilarious the way Emily's mom is so proper that she cares more about Victor being in her room than him being married to a corpse.
The scandal!
I think this movie benefits from not taking itself too seriously. It's a really fantastical plotline, and the jokes about death peppered throughout really do a lot to lighten the mood. The movie is also pretty short, at a mere 77 minutes, likely because of the animation method, but it doesn't waste any time on filler, and that makes for a very compelling experience. Now let's hear from my friend D'Angelo from Hats Off Media for a different perspective.
Alright, make way for a real special guest. If you guys don't know me already, my name is D'Angelo Edwards, and I run the channel Hats Off Media. That's the channel's name, not mine. Anyway, now that we got that out the way, let's talk Corpse Bride. I feel like I experienced this movie a little differently than other people. While I've always been a fan of Tim Burton movies, I feel like I watched them out of order. I know a lot of people started with Nightmare Before Christmas. That's the big one. The movie, I'm pretty sure, accounts for 60% of Hot Topic sales. I should know, I bought a wristband. But my first Tim Burton movie was Edward Scissorhands. And I saw Corpse Bride before I even knew there was a Santa Claus to be kidnapped. And I loved it. I think stop motion is the perfect medium to tell a horror story. It's already kind of inherently creepy. And I know this sounds rich coming from a puppet, but dolls are not supposed to move. These movies dip just enough into the uncanny valley that you're always on the edge of your seat. But this movie enchanted me. I wouldn't really call it all that scary, but the atmosphere is amazing. The deep blues of the dirty old London town contrasted against the bright colors of the underworld are amazing. And I think it's really funny that the more lively place is where all the dead people live. I really like the characters as well. This is probably the most subdued I've ever seen Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter, but they both do great jobs. Victor is such a sad little twink, I just want him to be happy. And the Corpse Bride has such a touching story, you can't help but feel bad for her. She kind of a baddie too. Remember kids, it's not necrophilia if you're already dead inside. The parents are also a ton of fun to watch be absolutely awful. And every dead resident is a delight. I love that a character dies halfway through the movie and just ends up in the land of the dead to give some exposition. Most of the songs are bangers as well. I love the song the skeleton sings, and the one that the spider and maggot sing as well. Leave it to Danny Elfman to bring the heat. All in all, this is a gorgeous piece of macabre romance that pairs well with a foggy night. It's not just a lesser Nightmare Before Christmas. It's its own spooky story that I think everyone should give a watch.
Is there a deeper message in Corpse Bride? Probably not. I think it's just a lovely spooky film about caring for other people. And even if it didn't have that message, I'd still really enjoy watching it because of its visual splendor.
Oh, isn't the view beautiful? It takes my breath away.
Make sure to give Corpse Bride a watch this October. You'll thank us later. Thank you so much for being here and for watching this spooky, scary movie review. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got more Halloween-themed content coming every Friday this month. If there's anything you'd like to see me talk about in the future, tell me in the comments. That's all I've got for you today. Be sure to check out D'Angelo's channel where he talks about media that doesn't deserve to be forgotten. And follow me on Twitter, Instagram, links for all that in the description. Stay hydrated, get vaccinated, and I'll see you next time.
Can I ask you kind of a weird question?